Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Mare, and we're breaking down the world of pro wrestling.
From the eyes of a smart fan.
And a casual fan, and everyone in between.
Whether you're a lifelong fan
or just getting into it,
you've got a ringside seat with us.
Welcome, everybody, to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling show where one of us takes notes, the other takes things personally, and somehow we still make it through the week together.
This week, we're coming to you with a packed show and a boots-on-the-ground report straight out of Queens, New York for AEW Double or Nothing, one of the biggest money-making weekends AEW has ever put together. We're talking about the atmosphere, the crowd, the matches people won't stop arguing about online, and what it felt like being there live as AEW rolled into Dynamite and Collision after the fallout.
We switch gears over to WWE because the calendar is getting ridiculous in the best way possible. We're covering Monday Night Raw, The Clash in Italy, and AAA Noche de los Grandes, featuring a historic mask versus mask showdown that is being talked about as an all-timer.
So whether you come here for an elite level analysis, accidental comedy, passionate rants, or two people debating wrestling like it's family court hearing, you're in the right place.
The music, let's talk wrestling. We're going to start off with AEW Double or Nothing, the buy-in. We had the Women's World Tag Team Title 5-minute challenge eliminator match. So the Double D's pick up the win against Viva Van and Zeta Steel with Christopher Daniels in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So they almost made it to 5 minutes. You've had a lot of good things to say about Zeta Steel. Do you have anything about this match?
Yeah, I thought it was the perfect pre-show type match. It built for later in the week for Collision that we'll get to a little bit later with the return of Anna Jay and Tay Mello. But Megan Bayne and Lena Cross look good. Zeta Steel has a ton of charisma, and the fact that she's getting these pre-show opportunities is huge. And, Divine Dominion, they're a great tag team, and they've been beating everybody. So the fact that teams are getting closer and closer shows that they're building towards potential matchups.
Yeah. Then we had a 6-man tag team match. The Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Daniel Garcia, and Wheeler Yuta defeat the Op. So Anthony Bowens, Hook, and Shibata in 10 minutes and 32 seconds. I don't remember this match, and we were there.
Yeah, this was a quick match. We got to see the return of Eddie Kingston. Or no, that was the next match. Sorry.
Oh, the
Yeah, this was a way to continue the feud for later in the night where you had Ospreay and Samoa Joe going at it. But nice way to get 6 guys on the card. Shibata was over big, and everybody loves the Death Riders entrance.
Yeah. Then we had the 10-man tag team match. We had Boom and Doom, the Conglomeration, Roderick Strong with Big Justice and Harley Cameron and the Rizzler on the outside. These guys picked up the win against Shane Taylor Promotion. So we got Anthony Ogogo, Carly Bravo, Lee Moriarty, Shane Taylor, and Sean Dean with Christian XO. Is that how you say it? In 6 minutes and 31 seconds. Now this match was like, the crowd went crazy for this. Everybody was so excited to see Big Rizzler, Big Justice, everybody. It was a really, really loud, hot crowd, I think, once this match hit. I must have been buying beer or something the other matches because I don't remember, but I remember this one.
Yeah, this was the big pop for the pre-show. Everybody loves Big Boom AJ. He's from the New Jersey area. But you had everybody that the crowd normally goes crazy for. Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Harley Cameron was there, the Rizzler and Big Justice. You had the social media people. And then at the end of the match, when Shane Taylor Promotions were doing the jump after the match, that's where you got Eddie Kingston coming out to a huge pop with Mance Warner. So, you got to see that. But the pre-show, they wrapped it up pretty quick. They wrapped all 3 matches up in 45 minutes. And then we got what everybody wanted to see, an interaction of Mick Foley and MJF.
Yeah.
Mick Foley got huge pops all throughout the pre-show there. The interaction with MJF and Foley was awesome. Led to, a low blow from MJF. Darby came out, and it wouldn't shock me if we see, more Mick Foley and MJF later on down the line, whether working together or going against one another. But Tony says that more things are coming for Mick Foley, and he's fully on board as the commentary team. So,
That's great.
maybe we could see him at some Dynamites and Collisions, or maybe it'll just be pay-per-views. But him and Renee were great on the pre-show, and the crowd ate it up in Queens there.
Then we had the main show start. It was the AEW World Tag Team Title I Quit match, with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage picking up the win against FTR. No surprise here, Cope and Christian won the title. This match was super fun to watch. It was so fun to be there singing, Cope's song. The crowd was insane for this match. It was just a very loud crowd.
Yeah, I love this match. It was the perfect way to start off the show. Adam Copeland being a legend, everybody was there to see him. Everybody wanted to see him and Christian come out on top.
Yeah.
It was the big happy moment. You also got to see the return of Beth. So
That was so great.
yeah, she got her just and, coming out and taking care of Stokely. She took a hard shot right into the steps, which was really cool to see. You got a little bit of everything. Blood wasn't really allowed in this show, but you still got the tables. We got a flaming table.
Yeah, we did.
We got to see Spike. Christian was awesome every time they went to him for, asking him if he quit.
I, I banged your mom.
Yeah. The crowd ate that up like crazy.
Yeah. So Cope got his first 5-star match rating from Meltzer. I mean, that has to be kind of like the cherry on top of an incredible career.
Yeah, 28 years, and he finally gets his first five-star match. This was, one of the top matches I thought on the entire show.
Yeah.
The crowd was absolutely crazy for this, and it was awesome. 5 stars from Meltzer, and it was worth every star for sure.
Then we had the AEW International title match. Takeshita picks up the win against Okada in 19 minutes and 1 second. Back-to-back 5-star matches from Dave. This was a great match to see live. I mean, there's not a moment on this card where the crowd was like silent or quiet at all. Like it was just constant noise, but an incredible match. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was nuts. The crowd went crazy soon as the entrances started, and both these guys didn't let up. We got big match Okada. Takeshita brought it, nice back and forth, and to finally get the payoff after 8+ months of waiting for this match
Mm-hmm.
to see the title change. It was awesome to see, and, just the level of work you saw in the first 2 matches of this pay-per-view
Mm-hmm.
were so hard to follow
Yeah.
because they started off so hot and heavy, and, like Meltzer said, back-to-back five-star matches.
Yeah.
It was awesome to see and, great way to start off a huge pay-per-view.
Yeah. Then we had the Owen Hart Foundation 2026 Women's Tournament quarterfinal match. Athena picks up the win against Mina Shirakawa in 10 minutes and 46 seconds. I definitely was away at this time. I think I went to go get a drink or something.
I think half the arena left during this one. Yeah, this was the bathroom going to concession stand match. It was a solid matchup. Definitely a strong change of pace from the first 2 matches. This was probably the quietest the crowd was. But Athena's great. Mina has, huge charisma. This should have been the Willow versus Alex Windsor match, which I think would have went over a lot better. But for what it was, solid matchup.
This match, I even missed part of the Mox match. So this is the thing. So we were there. We were live in person. It was freaking cold. It took us 12 years to get into the venue. And then once we were in there, it was like nobody knew how to do anything. So when I stepped away for that 10-minute match, I didn't end up coming back until closer to the start of the Osprey match, just waiting in line because they weren't prepared for the amount of people that came to the show.
Yeah.
It took me so long just to get 2 beverages.
Yeah, security and, staff throughout the night, you could constantly hear them saying like they don't know what to do. It definitely felt like they weren't prepared to have 15,000 people there for that night.
Yeah, it was insane. I don't know if it was better in the other parts of the venue because we kinda walked in and our seats weren't too far away. Maybe in other parts of the venue it was better, but our experience was crazy. But shout out to the guys we sat next to, they were cool guys.
Yeah.
Then we had the AEW Continental Title No Time Limit match with John Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly. That went 18 minutes and 44 seconds and got 4.5 stars. Kyle O'Reilly is looking so skinny right now. He needs to see it.
Yeah, he was out for a while. I don't think this match was anywhere near as good as their previous matches they had, but still a very good match. The thing about this card is, great wrestling throughout, some really good standout matches, and nothing really let up. Very good back and forth submissions around all around for Moxley and O'Reilly. Moxley finally getting over the Kyle O'Reilly hump and getting back those wins from that time ago. So definitely excited to see where Moxley's going to go with this whole Osprey pairing. And it wouldn't shock me if at the July pay-per-view we get a Moxley Osprey match.
Yeah. Then we had the Owen Hart Foundation 2026 Men's Tournament quarterfinal match. Will Ospreay picks up the win against Samoa Joe in 13 minutes and 52 seconds. This is definitely the most exciting entrance for me. I think just the vibe around Will Ospreay's entrance was fantastic. Everybody was going apeshit. Will Ospreay was eating it up. And then, of course, like Samoa Joe's like one of my favorites. And so for me, it was a really great match to watch. Super fun, lots of high energy, and, really, got us all pepped up again.
Yeah, I feel like the crowd really came alive as soon as they knew Osprey was coming out.
Yeah.
They went nuts for his entrance. This was a fantastic match. It started off strong. Osprey hitting a hidden blade as soon as the match started. He basically wrestled this match as AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Gear looking like AJ Styles. He did the Styles Clash. He was doing the AJ drop kicks, the Pele kicks. So he really went into his bag, hitting a 450. So Osprey, he looks 100%. He looks great, a little bit slimmer than he was last year at this time, but looks to be moving well. Joe looks great, and I expected a great match, and that's exactly what this was. And from this point on, the crowd was on fire. They didn't dip down the rest of the night, and the matches certainly didn't give them a chance to.
Yeah. Then we had another quarterfinal match. Swerve Strickland defeats Bandito in 15 minutes and 15 seconds. Another great match, 4 3/4 stars. I think after a certain point in this match, I checked out because it was really cold outside.
Yeah, this was the match I was most excited for. In the preview episode that we did, but didn't air because of audio issues from our hotel, this was what I picked for match of the night, and it was up there for me. It was probably the fourth best match for me. But these guys, the creativity in this match, Swerve doing his house call while standing on top of Bandito's shoulders was something to see. Just the back and forth, the 21 plex from Bandito. This was awesome. And really set the tone for the rest of the night. And seeing Swerve and Bandito in a, high profile match like this is exactly what the company needs. And Swerve coming out on top is, what I expected in this.
Then we had the AEW Women's World Title four-way match. Tekla defeats Hikaru Shida, Jamie Hayter, and Chris Statlander in 13 minutes and 59 seconds. What's your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, this was a solid match. Nothing crazy. Normally the women's matches, can really hold a candle to the other matches on the card for AEW, but tonight, they just weren't able to. And this was a solid matchup. I wish they would go when they have matches like this, like ECW, and have the, 3 and 4 way dance where it's an elimination, and it would just switch it up and make it a little more interesting. And, you could still have the same outcome, but just make it a little bit different. But Tekla holding on to the title makes sense. It'll be interesting to see who steps up. We got Forbidden Door coming up. And, I think seeing someone from Stardom makes a lot of sense. Maybe a Saya Kamatani, which would be a great match, especially with her history with the president of Stardom and how she's attacked him 3 times since, leaving the promotion. So it would make sense that they send one of their top guns out for Tekla. but we'll see how it goes.
Then we had the Stadium Stampede match. So Jack Perry, Chris Jericho, The Elite, and the Hurt Syndicate defeat the Don Callis family, the Demand, and the Dogs in 31 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, this was, more of the sports entertainment style match. Better for the home audience than being there in person because everything's everywhere. You got, essentially like 12 people being involved, counting MVP and Don Callis. You had some backstage stuff. You got to see Tommy Invincible, from the
Mhm.
independents in there. He's been doing a lot of stuff with Jack Perry. You got to see the food fight for the comedic part of the match. You got to see Rocco's favorite part where Jack Perry drove the bus into Mark Davis, but he got out of the way. And they shot all of that live, which was really cool. Nothing pre-taped other than the video entrance,
Yeah.
but everything they did for the match itself was all one shot live,
Mm.
just camera cuts. And, for, an event that didn't allow blood, didn't allow fighting in the crowd, they were able to pull this off, make it fun, entertaining. The announcers were absolutely loving the match because, they had all the comedic stuff with the tennis balls, Luther coming with the giant tennis racket,
Yeah.
the reunion of Leo Rush and Bobby Lashley,
Mhm.
which everybody wanted to see. But it was a fun match, and for what it was, entertaining.
We had the AEW World Title versus Hair match. Slow clap for Darby Allin. Way to end his short and sweet run. Phenomenal historic run. And I think this was the right time to take the title off him, even though I'm not a fan of quick title changes. I think if you're going to do it, this is how you should do it.
Yeah, he may not have had the title for a very long time, but he had more matches defending the title than.
Most of the roster that's had it.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was defending it twice a week, every week, and he was having fantastic matches throughout. This was another example of a great match. MJF looked great. They did a lot of amazing things in there. Darby jumping off of the, Titantron all the way down doing a coffin drop through Max was awesome.
Almost decapitating himself at the start of the match.
Yeah, when
Like,
he
it
did
was
did
crazy.
the suicide dive and got folded up like a sandwich. This was wild. And then to end the match after MJF won with a side headlock takeover, Kevin Knight comes out and does a UFO splash right on the Darby while he's strapped up
On the
on
stretcher.
the stretcher. So Kevin Knight turned heel. It ended the night on a big down note for a lot of people. I was excited for MJF getting the title back. Now
Yeah.
a three-time AEW World Champion by the age of 30, so joining a very select list of people. But this was a fantastic show. There was definitely 15,000 people there. The crowd was hot. It was an amazing show, and I would like to see them, if they could ever get it, do a show at MSG. I think a MSG crowd for AEW would be absolutely fantastic. We were there for the Ring of Honor New Japan show,
That was great.
which was originally supposed to have Kenny Omega on it and the Young Bucks on it, but that was at the very beginning of AEW. So we'll see if they ever get back in there. But this was fantastic and, just another great AEW pay-per-view. They're talking about 200,000 pay-per-view buys. So definitely one of the most profitable AEW shows. Probably one of the top 4 or 5 all time in the company's history.
Yeah.
So for it being up there with, the all in shows where they have 50,000, 40,000 people, it just shows what, doing a big time New York venue gets them.
Then to Dynamite, we had a singles match. Chris Jericho defeats Ricochet in 13 minutes and 57 seconds.
So this was the ending of their feud.
Mm.
So Jericho finally gets the win over Ricochet one-on-one, following up the big loss at Stadium Stampede. And the big surprise at the end of the match was Tommaso Ciampa attacking Chris Jericho. So looking like his next feud is going to be with Ciampa, and a first-time match, first-time feud, and perfect opportunity for Ciampa to step up with someone as legendary as Chris Jericho.
Yeah. Then we had the Superstation Showcase four-way match. Roosh defeats Brian Cage, Leo Rush, and Orange Cassidy in 12 minutes and 8 seconds.
Yeah, Brian Cage is back from injury and getting a lot of showcase, which is great. He looks great. He was awesome in the ring, and now it looks like him and Doyle are the new tag team now that Mark Davis is out with now he's dealing with, being in the Owen tournament and being the national champion. But Roosh picking up the win, continuing that build. And after this match, Roosh actually came out, confronted MJF, who was confronted by Mark Briscoe to set up next week's match of Roosh versus MJF for the world title. So Roosh getting that showcase match next week on Dynamite.
That's pretty cool. Then we had an Owen Hart Foundation 2026 men's tournament quarterfinal match. Brody King picks up the win against Claudio Castagnoli in 12 minutes and 1 second. That's pretty exciting for Brody King.
Yeah, he advanced in the tournament, picking up the win over Claudio and hard hitting, two big dudes going at it on a Wednesday night. And he'll be taking on Swerve Strickland to see who goes to the finals of the Owen. So huge setup there for Brody and Swerve, who have a long history. And I expect that match to be a violent, bloodbath match when they do have it.
Yeah. Had a quick tag team match. TJ picks up the win against our girl Alley Catch and Ava Everett in 1 minute and 10 seconds. So Alley Catch isn't in GCW anymore. So is she all elite or?
She's been doing, some matches for him. She was on Ring of Honor, then she did a Dynamite match, and now she's doing another Dynamite match. So she's been all over. This is normally how Tony does it. He starts booking you on a couple, lower level matches, and then he'll eventually give you a shot. And, she got into great shape and she's a good worker. So she would be a welcomed addition, whether it's in Ring of Honor or on AEW.
We had an Owen Hart Foundation 2026 men's tournament quarter final match. Mark Davis defeats Jack Perry in 17 minutes and 24 seconds. Now, did they give us extra time because they have been feuding or?
Yeah, so they set this match up, and you could pretty much tell that it was going to be Mark Davis advancing because he was the one that injured Osprey the last time they wrestled. So he beat Jack Perry for the title previously, beats him again here in a good match. I love the finish where Mark Davis did a pile driver off the second rope to Jack Perry, which was pretty cool. And now you're going to get Mark Davis against Will Ospreay for a second time, where former United Empire stablemates go against each other, and the winner's going to go to the finals.
Moving on to Collision, we had a six-man tag team match. The Death Riders, so John Moxley and Pac with Will Ospreay defeat the Rascals in 10 minutes and 21 seconds.
Yeah, big opportunity and showcase for the Rascals, who've been doing great things on Collision. And there was a little animosity in this match between Osprey and Pac. So hopefully at some point we'll get a match between the two, which would be
Great.
awesome to see. But Osprey picking up the win with a submission, so he's definitely acting like a Death Rider. But I think eventually that's gonna come to pass. Moxley's gonna want him to be a certain way, and Osprey's gonna want to do it the Osprey way. And I could definitely see them having a match leading up to Osprey going to All In to battle for the world title.
Then we had a singles match. Andrade El Idolo defeats Ace Austin in 8 minutes and 8 seconds. I have to say, I'm so excited for Ace Austin. He keeps getting to wrestle like incredible talent and showcase like that he's also a really great wrestler.
Yeah, I had high expectations for this match. It didn't really deliver the outstanding match that I thought it was going to be. It was a good match, nothing wrong with it. As Brian Alvarez likes to say, both guys tried really hard, but it just didn't click for whatever reason. But Ace Austin's been having a lot of great matches on Collision and in 2026. And I think Andrade, who right now is the global champion in New Japan, he's been having one of the best 2026s of any wrestler in the world. But for me, it just didn't click. Maybe if they had a little bit more time, maybe they were rushed. I'm not sure what it was, but for whatever reason, this just didn't do it for me.
Then we had a lights out Philly street fight. Chris Statlander picks up the win against Hikaru Shida in 15 minutes and 55 seconds.
Now, this match did do it for me.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved this match. This was one of the best collision matches I've seen in a while and really surprised me. I didn't have a lot of expectations for this match, but these women went all out. We had chairs, we had light tubes, we had everything, kendo sticks. They really went at it. Harley Cameron got involved. A big win for Statlander, who's probably going to be involved in the TBS title picture now that Willow's going to have to vacate it. So we'll see this Wednesday who's going to be replacing Willow in the Owen, and then who's going to be in that determining match for the new TBS champion.
Yeah.
So a lot of opportunity in the women's division there. Could we get some returns like a Britt Baker, a Mercedes Moné, maybe Riho coming back into the picture, maybe somebody new like a Kyrie, a lot of opportunities here, but a hugely successful week for AEW, whether it was in the pay-per-view or the ratings, but everything is on the up for them. They just need to start selling some more tickets for All In. We are on the road to Forbidden Door.
Yep.
So we'll have a lot of New Japan influence, a lot of CMLL influence. So a lot of big things coming for AEW, but they have to be very pleased with the week they had in New York City.
Yeah. All right. That wraps up the AEW side of things, from the massive Double or Nothing weekend to the fallout on Dynamite. And honestly, there's still going to be discourse about half of this by the time next week rolls around.
Now it's time to switch lanes.
Because while AEW is making noise in Queens, WWE is gearing up for an absolutely loaded international weekend. We've got Raw developments to get into, Clash in Italy getting the ESPN rub, but did they deliver? And AAA Noche de los Grandes bringing the kind of stakes wrestling was built on, with a mask versus mask match that could change careers forever.
So grab another drink, reset the group chat arguments, and let's head over to WWE.
All right, guys, before we jump back into the show, I got to tell you about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's looking like $1,000,000 without spending $1,000,000.
If you're listening to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast, you're already a top tier wrestling fan. You care about the history, you care about the storytelling, you care about who really won that promo battle.
So why not dress like it?
Over at Pro Wrestling Tees, you can grab the official Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling merch. And buddy, this isn't some fly-by-night cheap print situation.
We're talking soft, comfortable tees,
Clean, bold designs.
the kind of shirt that works at a live show, a meetup, or your weekly pay-per-view watch party.
And here's the thing. When you rock the logo, you're not just wearing a shirt, you're repping the show. You're part of the conversation, and you're part of the community.
So do me a favor.
Right now, open up that browser.
Search Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Grab the shirt. Maybe grab two. One for you, one for the tag partner in your life.
Support the podcast, support the brand.
And look like you belong in the front row while you're doing it.
All right, let's get back to the show. We're going to kick it off with Monday Night Raw. There was a WWE Intercontinental title match. Penta picks up the win against Javon Evans in 11 minutes and 31 seconds.
This is the perfect type of match for WWE and for Monday Night Raw. Showcase two wrestlers that can go out and have a good match in, 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's perfect for Javon. Penta's extremely over with the WWE crowd, and this was a really good match.
Then we had a tag team match. Bailey and Lyra Valkyria defeat the Judgment Day. So Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez in 10 minutes and 51 seconds. So is it time for a Judgment Day reboot yet?
I mean, I think they need to switch it up a little bit. I would start building towards the Roxanne turning on the Judgment Day and going after Liv. I think they need to do something, whether it just go with Dom and Liv or add in some new faces, some new blood to the Judgment Day.
I think they should all just break up and Raquel can do her own thing.
Yeah, you could have Raquel and Roxanne, both split from Liv, and, that could be, a series of matches for Liv. But, they're not doing too much with Liv. They did announce her for the Queen of the Ring, but it seems like they had plans for her and Stephanie to continue. And when Stephanie got hurt, they just kind of paused Liv on everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it's time for a change. Maybe move on from JD and get somebody new in here. Whether that's someone from AAA, someone from the Indies, someone to inject some life into the Judgment Day and give some backup to Dom.
Yeah. Then we had a singles match. Seth Rollins defeats Montez Ford in 12 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yeah, so on paper, you would think this is a great match, and it was a solid match, but it just didn't move the needle that
Yeah.
much for me. The big thing was Angelo Dawkins got taken out with a concerto on the ramp, and the director did them no favors by showing the chair side where it shows it completely missed his head and just hit the ramp.
Yeah.
But looks like Dawkins is going to be out for a little while. I still think they're eventually going to lead to a Montez Ford going solo deal, whether that's joining the Vision or just doing his own thing. But I think it'll eventually happen. And I think, you could see a feud later on down the road with Montez and Seth Rollins.
Then we had the WWE Intercontinental Title number one contendership match. Rey Mysterio picks up the win against Rusev. I've had enough of Rusev.
Yeah, so they were setting this up and, I liked the intro to this match where Ethan Page was going back and forth trying to get an Intercontinental title match and Ray was going to be named number one contender and Ethan put a bug in Rusev's ear that, Ray was skipping past him and that's how you led to this match. But, for all the talk Rusev said about, being a top guy and, not getting what he wanted in AEW, I mean, he's just putting everybody over
Yeah.
in WWE and, not really getting a huge showcase moments.
Yeah.
I mean, his best match was that pre-show street fight he had with Sheamus last year.
Yeah, that was like the only match I ever wanted to see, and that's it.
Yeah.
He
S-
could have retired himself at that point.
Yeah. So, outside of that, not too much wrestling on Monday Night Raw, continuing the build to the Jacob match with Roman. And that's what WWE is focused on. It looks like, they're hearing the distaste from the fans and they're leaning back into what started the boom, and that's focusing on the bloodline. So I don't know if that's to set up a Rock return, but definitely seems like they're focusing everything around the bloodline moving forward.
Find out what The Rock is the final boss of.
Yeah, who's coming back for Cody's soul.
All right, we had Clash in Italy. I just have to say this was a snooze fest for me all around. Literally, I did take a nap for the first two matches, but I was like so bored with anything I watched because I feel like we've already seen it all. But let's talk about it. We had a Cody versus Gunther match. The only match I don't think I have seen before. Have we seen that before?
No.
The only fresh match, and it was 11 minutes and 35 seconds. Cody picks up the win, obviously.
Yeah, big letdown. I was very excited for this match. It was one of the showcase matches on ESPN today, and Cody picks up the win and uneventful match against Gunther. He beat him clean. No shadiness there. So Cody continues on as QB1, and we'll see where this leads for him. But big loss for Gunther, and something I wasn't expecting. I was expecting Gunther to go over here and maybe set something up for SummerSlam, but Cody continues on top.
Then we had the WWE Women's Title match. Rhea Ripley picks up the win against Jade Cargill in 16 minutes and 57 seconds.
I really enjoyed this
Did
match.
you?
I was surprised. Jade looked really good, and they got enough time. And, these two, just the visual aspect of them being in the ring, being adversaries, it looks great. Complete opposites from one another, but this was a very entertaining match. Both women looked good. There was a botch that involved B-Fab where she was supposed to put Jade's foot up on the rope and completely fumbled it, and it just looked awful. They had to edit it out on their X post, but beyond that, which had nothing to do with Jade or Rhea, this was a really solid match. And if they're going to have matches like this, I could definitely see this being like a long term, back and forth career feud.
Then we had a singles match. Brock Lesnar picks up the win against Obafemi in 6 minutes and 21 seconds. It just doesn't make sense to me to spend so much time building up Obafemi only to have him lose to the guy that was supposedly unbeatable when he already beat him in like 2 seconds.
And technically, Brock Lesnar's still retired.
And Brock Lesnar is retired. Your body's not even cold, dude.
Yeah.
They hardly threw the dirt on your coffin. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was basically just Brock Lesnar doing F5s through the whole match.
To feel like a man still or something.
Definitely, I think he did like 7 or 8 F5s to start the match, and I was worried that they were going to beat Oba right then and there like that, but luckily they didn't.
Well, fight it.
Yeah, he fought back a little bit. He looked strong getting up after getting an F5 through the table, but I expected and was hoping for more of a back and forth. They did go over 5 minutes, so that's something to be said. Yeah, but yeah, not what I was expecting. We'll see what happens. Oba is in. the King of the Ring tournament. He's going to be going against Penta in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see if they make the Intercontinental Champion look strong or if he's going to drop the title before that match. Penta has been one of their top guys. So to squash him like a nothing wrestler doesn't really make sense. So a good back and forth would be interesting. But now you got to watch, that they don't, burn through Oba and make him seem like a nothing after making him look like a something for a few months.
Yeah.
But time will tell.
Then we had the WWE Women's Intercontinental title match. Sol Ruka picks up the win and the belt from Becky Lynch in 14 minutes and 2 seconds. I'm happy for Sol Ruka. What do you think? We're going to get a Becky Lynch break?
I think you're going to get Becky moving up to the world title picture. She's been announced for the Queen of the Ring as well. She'll be going against Liv Morgan in the first round, and Becky Lynch picking up a win over Liv Morgan. Maybe Becky doesn't win Queen of the Ring, but she definitely could pick up a win over Liv to set up a future feud and a future title match. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I thought the women stole the show in Italy today. And Sol Ruka, I thought this was the best she's looked on the main roster. No botches on the Soul Snatcher. She looked confident. She was moving well. And Becky, was really good in this match. Her and Jessica Carr are continuing their feud. At some point, they're going to wrestle. They just have this back and forth, and Jessica's a former wrestler. So at some point, it's going to happen.
Tribal combat match at WrestleMania 2.
No.
Roman Reigns picks up the win against Jacob Fatu in 27 minutes and 12 seconds. It's a shocker they got so much time.
Well, it's Roman. So of course they're going to get time. So with this match, if Roman won, then Jacob has to acknowledge Roman and fall in line. And this match let down. It wasn't as brutal as some of the other things they've done in the build for this match on Raw, but it was an entertaining match. Nothing too crazy. It was more entertaining after the match where Solo and Tala and Tama were in the audience, and Roman basically said to the Usos that he's going to deal with them next. So basically trying to get everybody in line, and Jacob had a decision to go back to Solo, who actually gave Jacob a shot, or to essentially be a lackey for Roman when he's already said that he doesn't belong there. So interesting, choice here for Jacob. We'll see how it all plays out and what's going to happen with the MFTs and the new bloodline. But yeah, not the worst, PLE pay-per-view for WWE, but certainly not the best. Backlash was definitely better than this, and we'll see what happens on Raw tomorrow night.
Right, let's move on to AAA Noche de los Grandes. We had the AAA World Cruiserweight title match. Rey Fenix picks up the win against Laredo Kid in 11 minutes and 54 seconds. This was a title change tonight.
Yeah, Rey Fenix actually, getting to wrestle, picking up a big win in his, biggest opportunity since leaving AEW. His family was there, so, now he's the Cruiserweight champion for AAA. At least he'll get showcased and put in a good opportunity. And, he's loved in AAA. So it makes total sense to have him there and, being a driving force. And if he gets hot, you could have great matches with him and Javon Evans for sure.
Yeah. Then we had the AAA Latin American title match. El Hijo de Vikingo defeats El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. 7 minutes and 19 seconds. It was the Battle of the Hijos.
Yeah.
Title change.
Vikingo won, nothing too crazy here. Vikingo's someone that they're always going to push. They have aspirations for. I think he should go to NXT and be someone that could have some good matches there. There's a lot of new talent there. And if the rumors are true and you're eventually going to get Hiromu in NXT, a Vikingo Hiromu feud would be something that could excite some interest on AAA and NXT TV.
Yeah. Then we had the AAA World Tag Team title match. The War Raiders defeat Pagano and Psycho Clown. It's a title change, 9 minutes and 13 seconds.
Yeah, a lot of title changes on this show. The crowd was super hot for this whole event, and it looked like Pagano and Psycho Clown are going their separate ways here. But we'll have to see. But, big opportunity for the War Raiders. They've been champions all over the world. Ring of Honor, WWE, both Raw and SmackDown, New Japan. They've been everywhere. Now AAA. So, they're an established tag team that can have matches with anybody in any country, and you can count on them to be solid.
Make fun of them and their name.
It's been War Machine, the War Raiders, the Viking Raiders, a little bit of everything.
El Grande Americano defeats the original El Grande Americano. This match went 33 minutes and 20 seconds. It was an absolute bloodbath. Great match.
Yeah, this was a fantastic match. Exactly what everybody thought it was going to be. I'm glad they gave them the proper time. It should show, what people can do if given the time. And this is like something you would expect from AEW or New Japan,
Yeah.
when they have a blowout match like this. And it was a bloodbath. You had interference from, the Creeds, you had the interference from Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, and then Pimpernella came in and was involved, and the crowd was absolutely hot for this. It was awesome. At the end, the original El Grande Americano unmasked. It was Chad Gable, and they even showed their respect to him during this. But this was awesome. They made the right choice. The new El Grande Americano keeping his mask, and it really makes me wish that if they would have had this match at WrestleMania, how much more of a classic this would have been, getting the eyes on it, making people then, I gotta go to AAA and I gotta watch this.
It was, a disservice to AAA, but I think actually it was almost better that it was in Mexico. Like, I think it was a great representation and a great match. And I mean, people are saying that it could be match of the year. So I think that that enough would be, getting people's eyes on the match. Like, I think them doing it this way was the right call versus WrestleMania. Because WrestleMania sucked. It would have just sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was awesome, and, props to AAA for having this. If you haven't seen this match, I definitely encourage you, go out of your way and watch this match. This was probably, compared to Double or Nothing, this was right up there with the best matches on Double or Nothing.
Yeah,
It was
it was
awesome,
great.
and the fact that it's on YouTube for free is saying something for sure.
I already read that. So where do these guys go story-wise?
I think you have an opportunity to make both these guys superstars after this. If you remember how the El Grande Americano story actually started, was Chad Gable trying to figure out a way to beat luchadors. And who's the champion, the Intercontinental Champion right now?
A luchador.
A luchador, Penta. So I would set up Chad Gable coming back, building towards an Intercontinental title match, maybe at SummerSlam, where he gets over the hump in his home state, beats Penta for the Intercontinental title, and starts, that upward trajectory for Chad Gable to, maybe take that next step and be a huge superstar.
Yeah, maybe.
And the same for El Grande Americano. I would, build him up. The people of Mexico and AAA, they are behind him. So shoot him to the moon, and, El Grande Americano versus Dom at Triple Mania. I mean, that's a huge opportunity, and, makes El Grande Americano a huge name in Mexico if he wins that title. All right. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast.
As always, thank you guys for hanging out with us, listening to the debates, surviving the hot takes, and being part of the show every single week. Whether you agreed with everything we said or spent the entire episode yelling at your speakers, honestly, that's what wrestling's all about.
Make sure you follow us everywhere so you don't miss the next episode, clips, reactions, and all of the wrestling chaos happening throughout the week.
You can catch us on YouTube and Instagram at Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod or on X at M&M Wrestle Pod.
And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, leave us a review. Hit that follow button and share the show with your wrestling group chat, because word of mouth helps more than any algorithm ever will.
For Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling, we'll catch you next time. And remember, in wrestling, everyone's got an opinion.
Hold up, hold up. Before we start the show, we got to address something.
Yeah, the fact that you still don't own our merch.
Disrespectful, honestly. You listen every week. You yell at your phone when I'm right.
You mean when you think you're right?
Either way, you're not repping the brand. That's a problem.
Big problem, because the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, main event material.
Soft, comfortable, championship level drip.
Perfect for Raw, perfect for Dynamite, perfect for sitting on the couch judging creative decisions like you book the territory.
And let's be honest, when you walk into a show wearing our logo,
You're basically saying I've got elite taste.
Who's your favorite wrestling podcast?
Who runs the hot takes?
Who brings the chaos every week?
Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling. So stop playing.
Search Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Grab the shirt.
Join the movement.
And look better than Mr. Wrestling while you're at it.
Okay, wow. We're ending strong.
We are ending strong in our merch.